Guys, I want to talk about something that has been bothering me a little bit lately, and I touched on it a bit in my video from earlier this morning, which was the post-game video from the Warriors game last night. And that's how reactionary our current Bulls fan base has become. Now, I'll admit, I myself am not immune to this. Like most fans, we find ourselves being prisoners of the moment and reacting to what's currently going on with our team. And that can be said across most fan bases around the league, really, not just Bulls fans. But after the comments I saw last night, this morning, both from fans and the media, even some of my friends, I felt it necessary to clear some of the air here for all of those who have quickly jumped on the trading for Vucevic was a bad idea bandwagon. And that's what I'll talk about in this video. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Guys, I think we can all agree the Bulls have not been playing well recently, really ever since the All-Star break. Zach Lavine hasn't quite been the same player since being selected as an All-Star, which I may have to discuss that in a separate topic because that in and of itself is a separate issue. Lauri Markkanen hasn't been playing consistently since re-entering the lineup after being injured. And of course, the Bulls made some substantial moves at the trade deadline, and the team is still trying to figure out the chemistry with the new guys added to the roster. So yes, I don't think anyone would disagree that the Bulls haven't looked good right now, and there are a lot of factors as to why, which I have discussed quite a bit in prior videos. But the most recent blame, if you will, for why the Bulls have been struggling is that a lot of folks are saying that trading for Vucevic was a mistake. I'm not saying all Bulls fans, but some, at least based on what I've seen on Twitter, other social media platforms, and of course even here on the channel. I even saw some people calling out Arturas that he needs to be fired or Billy Donovan to be fired, which is just so comical to me because literally just a few days ago, I would say about 95% of people were absolutely praising Arturas and Mark Eversley for the moves that they made at the deadline, particularly trading for Vucevic, and that the Bulls essentially fleeced the Magic. Yet, just a couple days later, the tone has completely changed in the opinion that just after 2 losses, not even a week with the new acquisitions on the team, that this trade was a mistake. Like I said, all of us fans can be quite reactionary to what is currently going on, but this takes it to a new level. Now, the common thing I hear is that the Bulls should not have traded away 2 future first rounders for a 30-year-old big man who can't play defense. And the Bulls really needed defense more than anything, so Vucevic doesn't necessarily solve the Bulls' problems. If anything, it could have been made worse because Wendell is a decent defender. That's sort of the gist of what I've been seeing across the league. But I think what people fail to understand here is that Vucevic was not the answer to all of the Bulls' problems, and that by trading him, we would instantly become contenders. No. He was one piece in building this team on a path to contention for the future. Another all-star to pair alongside Zach Lavine, to 1, show that they are committed to getting him some help, and 2, to hopefully have the Bulls make the playoffs, which I know remains to be seen at this point, and have the Bulls be a more attractive free agency destination that already has 2 all-stars in place on the roster. Vucevic is still an incredibly talented big man who doesn't really have to rely all that much on his athleticism, so the longevity is there. When you factor in most players at his age, of him being 30 isn't much of a concern. He's likely going to have a good 3 to 5 more productive seasons. He's an elite rebounder, which the Bulls need, elite scorer, and despite not being the best defensive player, he's a big body in the paint that won't get bullied by other bigs like we were seeing from Wendell. And guys, on top of all of this, we're talking about 2 games in which these new players were added to the lineup. 2 games. I know that I've been saying in past videos, well, this is a problem because the Bulls don't really have a ton of time to figure things out if they want to make the playoffs, which, yes, is true because I want to see my team make the playoffs. But just making the playoffs is not the end goal. The end goal is building a contending team, a team that can win a championship, which, again, the Bulls are nowhere close to at this point. But by adding Vucevic, it is not setting the Bulls back or it being a mistake. It is a step in the right direction. And with time, we will see that this team, once they start getting used to each other, that there will be improvement. And yes, it's possible it might be a little too late for this season, and that's fine. It's not like the Bulls were going to be contending this season anyway. And then we go into the offseason and make further moves to fix some of the weaknesses with the team, which Arturas has already said that he's going to be improving the roster. He's not done yet. So to say Arturas needs to be fired, or that this was a huge mistake on his part, or that Billy Donovan needs to be fired because he can't get these guys to play defense, I think people need to take a step back and realize this new front office inherited an absolute mess from the previous regime. And yes, there should be some accountability on Billy Donovan, especially in getting these guys to work harder on the defensive end and playing with more energy and hustle, because yes, we don't see that from a lot of the guys right now, but they haven't even completed a whole year on the job. And need I remind you, it was just a few days ago that most of us were praising the new front office and how a move like this would have never been made by Garpax. And a lot of fans were giving Donovan a lot of praise leading up to the All-Star break, because based on what we had been able to do with the team compared to what was done last season, that things were actually trending in the right direction. Again, reactionary and, taking a step back and looking at the broader picture. Now, as it pertains to the picks the Bulls traded away for Vucevic, which it's possible this year's upcoming pick could be a lottery pick that we send to the Magic if we miss the playoffs. Most of you already know this, but I am of the opinion that draft picks, which, yes, are always nice to have, but are more often than not a bit of a crapshoot. Not only do you have some players who turn out to be superstars that are drafted later on in the first round or even the second round, and then some players drafted in the top 5 end up being complete busts that don't amount to anything in the league. But on top of that, it's a draft lottery, so where you fall within the lottery is never guaranteed. So holding on to those picks in the hopes that you might have an outside chance at drafting a future star, it does not make sense if you have the chance to get an already established all-star in return for them. The other thing is, I'm still not sure that a lot of people fully understand how the NBA draft lottery works. Now, a couple videos ago, I was explaining how the top 4 protection works that the Bulls have on these picks, and as to where there's been a bit of a misconception that we own the Magic's pick top 4 protected, which is not the case, but rather that we would get to keep our pick should it fall within the top 4. But then I had some people comment, well, that's still bad then, because what if our pick falls to number 5 or number 6, we have to ship it off to the Magic, which, yes, technically true. If we fall that much in the standings to where we have our pick, be in 5 or number 6, yes, it would go to the Magic. However, the way the NBA draft lottery works is that the lottery, although picks are 1 through 14, the lottery itself, which is where the ping pong balls are bouncing around to see which team gets lucky, those are only for the top 4 picks. So in other words, say your team finishes with the 12th worst record in the league, misses the playoffs, you would be projected to receive the 12th pick, but you could also have a 1.5% chance to get the number 1 pick, a 1.7% chance to get the number 2 pick, a 1.9% chance to get the number 3 pick, and a 2.1% chance to get the number 4 pick. Outside of those 4 picks, and those 4 picks only, those are the only opportunities to move up in the draft higher than the 12th pick. You would not get a pick, number 5 pick, number 6 pick, etc. Your only opportunity to move up in the draft if you finish with the 12th worst record in the league is to move into the top 4. And again, the Bulls pick that they traded to the Magic is top 4 protected in the event that we were to get lucky and move into the top 4. The only way the Bulls would give the Magic a number 5 or say number 6 pick is if the Bulls finish with the 5th or 6th worst record in the league and they didn't get lucky and fall into the top 4 in the actual NBA draft lottery. And hopefully, anyway, the Bulls won't even come close to falling that far down in the standings as the 5th or 6th worst team in the league. I'm not that great at explaining these type of things, so some of this might sound still a bit confusing. So I actually found this chart that illustrates it nicely if you're a bit more visual. And this chart is based on the fact that if the season were to end today with the current standings, these would be the odds each respective lottery team would have. Teams that aren't in the top 8 in their respective conferences. These are the odds they would have as of right now. So as you can see, the Bulls would be 9th based on the current standings, although these standings are pretty tight and fluctuate with every game. But as you can see, there is no opportunity for the Magic to get picks 5 through 8. The highlighted portion in red is what would be subjected to be traded to the Magic. So 50.7% chance of that pick being number 9, 25.9% chance of it being number 10, and so forth. That is what the Magic would get. Again, the protection is there for the Bulls to get the top 4 picks, which they would have the odds to get based on what you see in the chart here. And hopefully, let's really hope the Bulls will move up in the standings with this roster once they start playing and start gelling a bit more together, and would fall a little closer to where the Warriors and Grizzlies are right now, even further giving the Magic a less valuable pick. As you can see, Memphis is an example. If the season ended today, there are more than likely to get the 14th pick with a 97.6% chance, with a very slim chance at those being top 4 again, which Arturas has protected for the Bulls should they get lucky. Now the hope is that we actually make the playoffs and don't fall into the lottery, which would make this first round pick that we're sending to the Magic to fall somewhere in the 15 to 18 range, depending on where the Bulls finish in the standing among playoffs teams. But should we miss the playoffs, this enables us to be a part of the draft lottery and give us a chance to still hold on to our pick in the event that it falls within the top 4. So I know I rambled on a lot about that. I just feel the need to over-explain because a lot of people have been asking me about that. But guys, at the end of the day, the front office knows what they're doing. They're not perfect because no front office is. They're doing what they can to put this team on a path to contention and have it fast-tracked than what was initially anticipated. Understand that it's been 2 games with the new players. Yes, there is a lot of work that still needs to be done. There are areas of concern, but from a long-term perspective, the team is being positioned nicely. The front office inherited a mess. This is an evaluation year, which they've already made big changes within it. They were without a doubt going to continue to make changes this offseason based on how active they were at the deadline. They need to upgrade at the point guard position. They need to improve their defense and sign a free agent or 2 that sets them up for success for seasons in the future. Don't worry about these 2 draft picks. That's something Gar Pax would have been worried about. Don't focus so much on how the team has been performing after 2 games with the newly added players. And I say that to myself as well. Like all of us fans, we are a bit reactionary when it comes to assessing our team, but rather all of us need to take a step back, realize we have a much better thing going than we've had in recent seasons, with a new front office that isn't afraid to take big swings and be aggressive in making the team better. Right now, sure, things don't look that great, but I would say 2 weeks from now, this team will start winning and winning consistently. Hopefully it's enough to make the playoffs, and if not, well, we still have a chance to land a top 4 pick. Oh, and we still have Vucevic and Lavine. That's just my perspective though, guys. I don't mean for it to come off patronizing to some of the fans who have been a bit heated or reactionary to how the team is currently performing, because like I said, even myself, I have been a little bit that way as well. But I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on the matter. Do you think, regardless of the Bulls' recent woes, that things will start to shape out well soon and ultimately benefit us for the long run? Let me know in the comments, and as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in as always, guys, and for supporting the channel, and I will catch you in the next one.